Senator Nguyen on this item.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand today also to join my colleagues in remembering the victims of the San Bernardino attack on December 2nd. One of the victims grew up and lived in my district, Tin Nguyen. I want to say a little bit about her. I attended her wake. I don't know her personally, never met her, but I know her uncle. Her uncle was a very prominent, well-respected Vietnamese American anchor in our community. And, what I was told that, that day he was reading the news. He was reading there's an attack in San Bernardino and et cetera. Didn't know that it was actually his niece that was shot. And so he read the news for the community to hear about it, to know, then find out that it was his niece that was involved. And that day, she was actually supposed to get married this year to her fiance. And that day was her fiance's birthday. And she was preparing a surprise birthday party. Every day, one thing that she does every day is she calls her mom 2 times a day. It was like 11 something and then at 1 o'clock. Her mom never heard from her that day. And her fiance thought, well, she usually calls me some throughout the day. Never heard anything. He was panicking. He then started hearing, she's doing a surprise birthday, so maybe that's it. She's trying to avoid me. And he got a friend, drove him to San Bernardino. They went to every hospital, everywhere they could try to get in to find out what is going on, and realized that, not only did not celebrate his birthday, but they celebrate the loss. And it is a tragedy. She was so young. She is, I met the family. Like I said, I don't know the family, but when I was there, I hugged her mom, I hugged her grandmother, and her grandma she was telling me she was so young, should not have happened. We worked so hard to bring her here. Shouldn't happen. I immediately just went on my knees and just hugged the grandmother. And we both just, were in tears. And I said to her, please know that, we're all crying with you. This whole country is. This whole community is crying with you and your family. And we apologize for the loss. And so I wanted to, make those comments. And, I know to her family, everything they had there she was a super glue. They had all the text messages that she, in the last, last couple of days, pinned up among the cousins. So, and I read it because it was posted and framed. It was really, she was a super glue. She was the one who's always, when are we getting together? When are we coming together? Hey, when are you going to pick up grandma? When are you going to do this? And it was to the extended family, not just to her. The loss is her mom, her grandmother, and her younger brother, who she was actually the breadwinner. She was the person who was bringing the income for the family. Again, I thank you, colleagues, for giving me this opportunity, and I want to also make my comments and my sympathy to San Bernardino and to all the other victims and their family as well.
Thank you. Senator Leyva, Nguyen, Roth, Stone, Morrell, please send our deepest condolences to the families of the San Bernardino tragedy. As all of you know, I started my career in the Inland Empire as a field rep for then Senator Nel Soto, so my heart goes out to all the families in San Bernardino and the Inland Empire. And to the local electeds, thank you for your tremendous leadership during such trying times. Thank you. Moving on to Senator Leno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, thank you for your attention. I ask that you join me, and I know that a number of other colleagues will be saying some words on behalf of one of California's stellar citizens, died on Christmas Day at the age of 70, Patty Siegel. Though you may not know her name, I can assure you that because of her vision and her tireless advocacy on behalf of children and parents and families, that all of our lives and all of the lives of our constituents have been changed for the better. Patty was the founder and CEO, executive director of the California Child Care Resource and Referral Network, something that she helped create and lead for over 30 years. Patty's involvement with child care and the needs of children and families went all the way back to the early 1970s when she had 3 young children, and she helped put together a neighborhood watch group for children so mothers could go off to work. And this is in San Francisco. It was called the Yellow Garage Playgroup, and it served such a purpose and filled such a need that within no time there was a growing waiting list. That, by 1975, became in San Francisco, the Child Care Switchboard, which is now called the Children's Council of San Francisco. Of course, as she continued to do her work, see what was needed across the state, working with the new Governor Brown after his election in the mid-1970s, came the California Child Care Resource and Referral Network. And long before all the studies and reports informed us of the obvious need for early care and education for children to be able to benefit and be able to perform at their best, making sure that we have, as a policymaker body, see lower rates of dropping out, higher rates of graduation, greater participation in higher education and opportunity to succeed, and of course, keeping young people from our criminal justice system. Patty knew that by bringing people together at a grassroots level and providing opportunity for affordable and quality child care, every child would be able to benefit. She didn't stop there. She went on to help establish the National Association of Child Care Resource and Referral Agencies, which is now named the Child Care Aware of America. And she was also an original state commissioner for the California Child and Families First Commission, which is our First 5 commission, and also represented California in the Children's Defense Fund State Child Care Advocates Network. She was honored by the Clinton administration when she was invited to the White House to speak about this issue that she was so impassioned. But for all of her countless accomplishments, I think Patty's greatest talent was manifested in the quality of every personal interaction that she ever had. There was never an instance when Patty didn't take the time to listen, to embrace, to take seriously whatever someone brought to her when approaching her for advice or for some counsel. She was just that kind of a person, endlessly energized, tireless in her every pursuit, and she has left a great hole in the fabric of California. I feel privileged and honored to have been a friend of Patty's, and I think of her as a beacon of light wherever she went and for everyone that she met. She is survived by her sister, Kathleen, along with her 3 children, Toby, Tara, and Kelsey. I miss her greatly. I hope that you will join me in sending her family, who's grieving. The 3 children lost their father just a year ago. So it's a great loss for the state, a great loss for the family, and for everyone who knew Patty Siegel. Thank you.
Senator Mitchell on this item.
Thank you very much. Senator Leno is such a gentleman, and I'm going to bring the rough side of Patty to the forefront. Patty was all things that Senator Leno said, and I agree with you, and she was also a fighter. And Patty honed her advocacy skills, her fight. In 1964, when she and her husband Sandy both joined the Mississippi Freedom Riders, the Summer Youth Project, and were long-term supporters and advocates in the civil rights movement. Patty was, to put it mildly, a force of nature. And if you don't believe me, you can ask Nancy Pelosi, President Clinton, numerous members of Congress, 5 governors, numerous directors of the Department of Finance, and members of the California legislature for over 40 years. That was her reach and scope. As Senator Leno talked about her history with the Yellow Garage Play Group, which led to the switchboard, ironically, shortly after Governor Brown was inaugurated in 1975, Governor Brown vetoed legislation which would have expanded child care funding in the Department of Education by $10 million. Patty took issue with that. In his veto message, he pledged to make an equal amount of funds available for something called the Alternative Child Care Program, known today as the AP program. It was intended to expand parental choice, address geographic equity in the distribution of child care funds and services for low-income families, and test cost-effective models of providing service. Well, unfortunately for the governor and the administration at that time, Patty, along with others at Bananas, the resource and referral agency in the Bay Area, had filed a lawsuit against the state. They were suing because at the time, child care licensing didn't allow for single women or people who didn't speak English to be licensed child care providers. And Patty, with her experience at the Switchboard Board and others, felt that that was unjust and inappropriate. It wasn't long before the governor's office invited the attorneys and plaintiffs of the lawsuit to discuss how the objectives set forth in his alternative child care proposal could come to fruition and how they could address this inequity with regard to licensing. That led Patty's work, the work of the executive director at the time of Bananas, led to AB 3059, which was the initial legislation that created the Alternative Payment Program, which is the undergird of the subsidized child care program as we know it today in California. And that was Patty's work, Patty's vision, Patty holding an administration accountable. Patty believed in the future of California and believed in the rights of every child, regardless of socioeconomic status, whether that child's mother was employed, married, a resident legally or otherwise. She founded Parent Voices. You will see the blue shirts here in the Capitol advocating on behalf of children, because she believed that mothers, fathers, and those of us who care about them in the community were the most appropriate people to come to elected bodies, policymaking bodies, to talk about the needs of children in our community. And so every time you come into the Capitol and there's a Stand for Children Day happening outside on the steps, that's Patty. Every time a Parent Voices group comes to meet with you and they have their blue shirts on and they talk to you about the needs of working families and the responsibility for all of us to make sure that children have accessible, affordable, high-quality child care in their communities, that's Patty. Every time you meet with a resource and referral agency in your district, it's because the switchboard and that early work with this legislature led to an R&R being developed in every county in this state. That's Patty. And so while I joined with Senator Leno, Patty was his constituent, as I joined with my sisters from Parent Voices who were in the gallery, as I joined with my former colleagues at Crystal Stairs, I ran an R&R that was created because of Patty. As I joined with all of those who advocate on behalf of early care and education in the state of California to ask that we adjourn in her memory. I am clear that she is gone, but she will not be forgotten. I am clear that when I stand on this floor and demand for resources for early care and education, it's because Patty taught me how to do that, and I will do that to the day I leave this chambers. Thank you very much. And we ask that you join us in honoring a fighter, someone who believed in the opportunities that children bring forward every day in the state of California.
Senator Jackson on this item.
Thank you. I rise also in memory of Patty Siegel. I also had experience with her, but I'm rising actually in my capacity as chair of the Legislative Women's Caucus, where this whole issue of early care and child care is one of the key linchpins to our commitment to California's future and to the importance of children having the best start possible at the earliest possible stages in their lives. I think all that has been said leads me just simply to a couple words. And that is, Patty Siegel was any one of us. Patty Siegel was a woman who had 3 children and recognized that there was a significant gap in the opportunities that young children had. She had 3 children of her own. She recognized that working mothers were lacking the kind of assistance and opportunities for their children, and she stepped up. I don't think Patty Siegel, as a young woman in her high school yearbook, identified that it was her goal to be leading a national effort for childcare. But she stepped up as a mother. She stepped up as a woman who said, there's a problem here, and I'm going to do what I can to correct it. And she did. She started, my experience with her was with the Child Care Resource Referral Network when I first got into the legislature and discovered this agency, this operation, this organization existed for just the purpose of trying to help those who might not be able to help themselves to access child care and early care for their children, something which seems so fundamental to us today. But it wasn't fundamental. But Patty Siegel, a mom of 3 kids, said, we have a problem here, and I want to try to help fix it. She also always operated with a real modesty. I mean, Patty wasn't in this for Patty. Patty was a mom. Patty was in it for the moms of California. Patty was in it for the families of California. She was in it for the children of California. And I think part of what raises such a pall over this institution at the learning of her passing was that she really touched a lot of people in this building. She did it in a way that was full of kindness. She was never confrontational. She was always, well, she was confrontational, but in a nice way. She demanded, but in a way that didn't threaten. She demanded because it was the right thing to have happen. And she was persistent. You can be tenacious and still be sweet and kind and still touch people. And she mentored many of the people in this building who are sitting behind us here, and many of us who had a lot to learn from that approach to the world. I rise in her memory and also recognize that she left behind 4 grandchildren who she adored. And as a grandmother, I understand that. And recognizing that by creating a child care and an early care network, their lives would benefit, I think is a lesson that all of us here who are grandparents, whether grandmothers or grandfathers, as well as parents, appreciate. We thank you, we will miss you, and I ask that we adjourn her memory.
Thank you. Senator Leno, please bring Ms. Siegel's name up to the desk so she could be properly memorialized. Next item we have is Senator Bates. Oh, perfect. Senator Canella.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to adjourn in the memory of Dr. Todd D. Bailey, Jr. of Los Alamos. He's the brother of my rules consultant, Bill Bailey, who usually sits in the back in these sessions. Todd passed away December 20th after a courageous battle with cancer. He graduated from the Cate School in Carpinteria and Brown University. He attended medical school at the University of Guadalajara. Todd was chief of staff and director of the emergency room at Marion Hospital in Santa Maria. Todd was known for his love of family, warm kindness and generosity, and his great sense of humor. He is survived by his wife of 38 years, Pam, and children Heidi, Patrick, and Spencer. Please join me in sending our thoughts and prayers to the Bailey family. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Canella. Please bring his name forward so he can be properly memorialized. Senator Hueso.
President and members, I rise to adjourn in memory of a lifelong Brawley resident, Miguel C. Miranda. Mr. Miranda died unexpectedly on December 29th of last year in Brawley. He was appointed to the Brawley City Council in 1994, where he served until 2013. He was a recently elected treasurer in November of 2015. He was a strong supporter of local foundations, including the Frankie L. Chavez Foundation and the Anthony Garcia Foundation, which provides scholarships to disadvantaged graduating high school seniors who will be attending college. He was also a board member of the Clínicas de Salud del Pueblo and the Babe Ruth Little League. He was loved by his community, and he was also very active with organizations such as Los Camperos, the Brawley Gladiators, Brawley Union High School Wrestling Booster Club, Brown Society, and the Latin Cruisers. Services for Mr. Miranda will be held Sunday, January 10th from 6 to 9 p.m. and Monday at noon at St. Margaret Mary Church in Brawley. I ask you to join me in adjourning in his memory today. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Wessel. Please send Mr. Miranda's family our deepest condolences. Senator Stone.
Thank you again, Mr. President and members. We had a very sad day in the Coachella Valley in November. During my campaign, I met a gentleman. His name was George Zander. He lived in Palm Springs for 2 decades. He was the regional manager of Equality California, a very strong leader with the LGBTQ community in the desert. On November the 1st, he and his husband were viciously attacked in a Palm Springs restaurant. He required surgery for a double fracture to his hip, had a concussion that needed staples in his skull, and as a result of his injuries 6 weeks later, due to his sedentary state and his recovery, succumbed to pneumonia. I know that we, last year, and I know prior to me coming to the state legislature, that we often take stands on hate. And I want to, first of all, give my condolences to his husband, Chris Zander, and ensure, Mr. Zander, that we as an institution here in the State Senate don't condone hate in any form, irrespective of your race, your color, your religion, or your sexual orientation. I really enjoyed knowing George throughout my campaign and him educating me on LGBTQ issues. And I assured him that if I were to become elected to the State Senate, that I would be representing not just Republicans, I would be representing Democrats, Independents, and all my constituents. And it was a very sad day in the Coachella Valley when this incident happened. It was a very sad day when George Zander passed away. And so I want to adjourn in his memory, send my condolences to his loving husband, and ensure that we as an institution will continue to stand against hate in any form in the state of California. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Stone. Please bring George's name forward so it can be properly memorialized. Dear friend of mine as well. Senator Morlock.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in memory of Ruby Kavanaugh, who died recently at the age of 93. She is the namesake of the Orange County chain of diners, and I would like to adjourn in her memory. Ruby Kavanaugh never intended to be the namesake of a single restaurant, let alone a chain that spans 5 states and has become synonymous with all-American nostalgia. In fact, when she saw the first Ruby's Diner sign in Newport Beach, it came as a shock. But she grew to love being the face of the family-friendly restaurants that her son now named in her honor. Kavanaugh, who often was besieged for crayon autographs by young diners at Ruby's, died Sunday, December 27th at the age of 93. The Irvine Company announced Kavanaugh was born Ruby Michael on July 29, 1922 in Jefferson City, Missouri, to Edwin and Victoria Michael. She moved with her family to California in 1936, attended Fremont High School in Los Angeles, and met her future husband, Doug Kavanaugh Sr., a Navy veteran, when she was 18. The pair, who shared a love of swing music and dancing, married in 1944 and had 2 children, Doug Jr. and Jane. Eventually, the family moved to Tustin, where Ruby Kavanaugh lived for more than 47 years. Her husband died in 1983. Her son, Doug, ran a restaurant on the East Coast before he returned to Orange County and opened his restaurant themed after his mother's favorite era, the 1940s. He named the restaurant after her on December 7, 1982, The first Ruby's Diner opened in a remodeled building at the end of the Balboa Pier, which Doug Kavanaugh Jr. had seen while jogging in Newport Beach. The red and white interior, the 1940s Americana decor, and photos of Ruby completed the look. Ruby's Diner now has 35 locations in California, Nevada, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Texas. Ruby is survived by Jane and Doug, her sister Dorothy, grandchildren Doug III, Sean and Kate, and many nieces and nephews. Many may have remembered some of the Rose Parade floats of Ruby's in years past. They are almost ubiquitous in my district, so when you come to visit me at my district office, please allow me to take you to a Ruby's Diner, either on one of the piers or somewhere in the district, or even at John Wayne Airport. It is an honor to adjourn in her memory, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Moorlach. Please send her family our deepest condolences. Members, we're going to move back quickly to privileges of the floor. Senator Hall.
Yes. Mr. President and Senators, I am pleased to introduce on this floor the Young Visionaries Mentorship Program. I am joined on the Senate floor today by Dr. Michael Fisher, pastor of the Greater Zion Church family, Danny Harrison, pastor's assistant, Frederick Gorton, Eric Benton, Ashton McKay, Markeith Melancon, Dejan Granberry, Tyreek Spratley, and Jordan Benson. The purpose of this great program is to gather a group of male adolescent men between the ages of 13 and 18 years of age with the mission to teach, instruct, and to educate these young men on how to properly transition from childhood to adulthood with skill, class, integrity, and education. These young men are straight out of Compton. And when you see the negative stereotypes that our friends, our press in the rear love to portray, these are the real stories that we should celebrate and acknowledge on and throughout California. These nine men have gone through a 9-week program which provides underprivileged youth the opportunity to achieve all the tools necessary to compete at the highest level of skill, intelligence, and character. Dr. Michael Fisher is the youngest pastor in Compton with a membership that is in the thousands, transitioning and educating young men, giving them an opportunity to achieve and succeed. Please recognize our friends from the great city of Compton, Dr. Michael Fisher, and the Greater Zion Missionary Baptist Church.
Welcome to Senator Hall's guests. Welcome to your California State Senate. Members, if there's no other business, Senator Allen, for what purpose do you rise?
Well, this is for a purpose of an introduction of some friends and constituents of Senator Pavley's and mine. We have this wonderful father and son pair who are here, David and Jared, and they'll come up here and we'll welcome them. In this age of cynicism, David, who's an activist in my district, he's very active with the Stonewall Democratic Club and a lot of community organizations in West Hollywood, though he actually lives in Senator Pavley's district, just wrote me on Facebook, and we struck up a correspondence. And he was just taken with the fact that he could actually correspond out of the blue with a state senator, and decided to get on the road and drive up to Sacramento and bring his son here and use it as an opportunity to teach him about state government. And they've been here on the floor today enjoying the proceedings. So I just wanted to take a moment to honor them. He and his husband adopted this wonderful young man who is a great basketball player and loves his mathematics, and maybe we'll get him into politics as well. So, David and Jared.
Members, let's welcome Senator Allen and Senator Pavley's guests. Welcome to your California State Senate. Senator Monning, there's no further, no other business. Senator Monning, the desk is clear.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Immediately following adjournment of today's session, there will be training on our new computer system. I went through it on Monday. It is incredibly user-friendly. A lot of work went into developing this. 15, 20 minutes, you'll be up to speed. So I encourage those who haven't had the training, please stick around after session today. We will reconvene on Monday at 2 p.m. Wish you all a safe weekend and drive carefully on the rainy roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Monning. The Senate will be in recess on, yes, Senator Hill.
Mr. President, just purposes of announcements, Monday at 1 p.m., Business Professions and Economic Development will be meeting.
Duly noted. Any other announcements? The Senate will be in recess until 3:30, at which time the adjournment motion will be made. We will reconvene Monday at 2 p.m. Thank you, members.